Okay, I think we'll get started. If anybody else joins us, they can come in, and it won't take them long to catch up. Thank you for coming along, everybody, and good afternoon or good morning, depending on which part of the world you're in. Um, this is the latest in our series of webinar Wednesdays, as we like to call them. Today we'll be working with our colleagues from DATASCOPE WMS to showcase their product and talk through what an advanced warehouse management system looks like, certainly from their perspective. And I'll be working with the guys to go through the features of the product and some of the history around DataScope as a business and a solution. As we've got a relatively small number of attendees on this webinar, I'd like to try and make it as interactive as possible as we go. So if you have any questions or queries as we go along, please feel free to take yourself off mute and ask those as we go along. We will also have a Q&A session at the end where you can either ask those questions at the end, either verbally or stick them in the chat if you prefer. But yeah, please do feel free to ask questions as we proceed through this webinar and the demonstration as well. So introductions, just in case people don't know who I am. My name's Andrew Longland. I'm the Managing Director of HIT Technology. We're a SYSPRO Premium Solutions Partner for the UK and Ireland. Been operating for about 16 years now. We specialise in SYSPRO. SYSPRO is at the core of everything we do, but we work with third parties such as DataScope and various others to add value to what SYSPRO can do for our customers. And working with me on this webinar today is our colleague from DataScope, Anton Jurgens, who is the president of DataScope and one of the founders. Anton will take the majority of this session. We'll lead you through some details on who DataScope are and the all-important part of demonstrating the feature set of the product as well. And that's it from me for now. As I said, we will have a Q&A session at the end. I'll try and facilitate that, but please feel free to ask questions as we go. And I will now hand over to Anton.
Cool. Okay, thanks, guys. Afternoon from my side. I'm going to take you through a couple of slides that really just positions DataScope where we fit in, a bit of background on the company. Won't spend too much time on that side, and then I'll jump across into the software, and I'll spend most of the time showing the software, explaining some of the functionality of the software. And I would encourage, as Andrew has already said, as many questions as you have, right? So the more engagement we have from the audience, the better, so that we can kind of talk through the software and explain the software in a bit of more detail, right? All right, so just as an overview, DataScope's been in business for 23 years. We originally started in South Africa. Obviously, a big SYSPRO following in South Africa. Our business was focused all around SYSPRO right from the beginning. We did some development of bespoke developed software that integrated into SYSPRO in the early days, and then very quickly realized that many companies in the SYSPRO space were looking for like a warehousing system, right? A barcoding, inventory control, warehousing in various forms. And we then embarked on building out the DataScope software. It's a single solution built for SYSPRO, doesn't run on its own, doesn't run with any other ERP system. It's strictly version controlled, and over the years we've sort of developed more and more functionality into the core product, and then obviously distributed that out to all of our customers. So every one of our customers is running a version which is within the last sort of year and a half of releases, and it's all the same base of code. So very settings driven, highly configurable, yet it's the same base of code. Software runs extensively in five countries: US, Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and obviously now into the UK. We're talking to a number of sites with Andrew at the moment in the UK, to bring the product into the market there. It's a plug and play solution. It's live into SYSPRO. There's no batch processing or anything like that. We bring out new versions for SYSPRO, SYSPRO 8 now, 2023 and 2024. We're busy testing on 2024 at the moment, SYSPRO 2024. Very, very much keep up to date with the latest in SYSPRO. So just at a high level, some key points on the growth of the company. Started, as I mentioned, in South Africa, branched out into North America in 2015, did our first site in Canada. Shortly afterwards, we did a site in Chicago. By the end of 2016, we had set up an office in the US to spearhead the growth. We've grown phenomenally in the North American market. Obviously, again, in the SYSPRO space. We moved our whole operation into the US in 2019. So the business operates out of the US. The software is sold in USD. And then it's supported through a channel partner network, which HIT is one of our channel partners, to deliver the product out into the market. Early 2023 into 2024, we released a product called Fast Track WMS, which is it's essentially the same software. It's just scaled down for a quick and easy implementation, pre-configured for smaller clients. Our stated intent as DATASCOPE is a full stack WMS, right? So typically our projects are with bigger SYSPRO companies with a lot of complexity and a lot of detailed functionality, integration to third-party software, into conveyor systems, etc. But Fast Track is built for the smaller client that wants a lower cost to entry, but wants a proper WMS, scale down, but a real WMS, not just some kind of data collector collecting data off the floor, right? Obviously, just in terms of user growth, we like to measure the business in terms of users. As the users have grown, we're sitting now at about 4,500 users that log into the software on a daily basis and work with the software. And obviously, the sizes of the sites over the years has grown substantially. We're currently busy with a Ken's Food project here in the US. And that's actually is going to more than likely be an 800 user site. We've got it there as a 750. But we've got many sites that are 20 users, 15 users, and then obviously all the way up to really big sites, right? Customer loyalty, just to talk to that briefly. The companies that typically work with us stay with the software for years. Our average retention is 7.5 years. And that includes new customers. So pretty much when companies implement the software, it's a long-term decision, and they run the software for years because it really highly optimizes the business, right? In terms of full stack WMS or advanced WMS, this is a true deep stack WMS, comparable to other best of breed WMSs. What the SYSPRO space has had up until now, or over the years, there's a number of products out there that SYSPRO will put forward that are what we term as data collectors. They're not true WMSs. They simply collect transactions on the floor and post them up into SYSPRO. That's not what we're about. Our software is essentially controlling the shop floor in its entirety. We tell people where to move things, where to pick things. We optimize the picking instructions. We wave pick. We do all those cool things to really optimize the operation at a floor level. And essentially, anyone that runs DATASCOPE, when they come into work, if they touch inventory, they log into DATASCOPE and they only work in the DATASCOPE software. So Fast Track or DATASCOPE Premium, either product. But they do all their transactions in our software, and our software combines SYSPRO's data on a live basis with our data to optimize the operation. This just kind of gives a couple of some of the more advanced modules. We can really go quite far in terms of voice picking and RFID integration and conveyor systems and all sorts of things. But even in its more vanilla WMS, many different picking strategies, many packing strategies, highly optimized inventory reservation processes, and so on, right? And then from about 2015 to 2019, we spent a substantial portion of our development effort into what we call selective architecture. And I'll just talk through these briefly. So by 2015, our core development over the years was pretty mature. We could walk into pretty much any site and we'd have a fit straight out of the gate, right? By tweaking settings, etc., we give them an excellent solution with a full stack WMS. So we took our focus and we put it onto integration tools, right? So we have a full set of our own E.NET business objects. They work just the same as SYSPRO's business objects. We have triggers that, certain events happen. We can trigger external programs. We can trigger events out on the factory floor, or on a warehouse floor. We've got what we call plugins, where in logical pieces of the software, you can actually script your own set of logic and then push it back into the software. So typical one there is reservation of inventory. You can build your own reservation rule to say, when I release an order to my distribution center, I always want to pick full pallets first. And then when I can't pick a full pallet, I want to look at the number of cases that I'm going to be picking. And if it's less than 5, pick it from a pick face. But if it's more than 5, break a pallet. But those settings are absolutely endless. You can build your own rules around expiry date control, lot control, giving more priority to one customer than another. That's a typical, like a plugin. The HTML5 front ends, all the scanner screens are HTML5 based, and you can customize them. So you can buy the design kit, open the screen and add your own logic in there, copy it away, make your own screens. It's highly integratable, right? So especially for the bigger sites, if you want to control conveyor systems, sorting systems, pick-to-light systems, carousels, all those integration tools exist, right, to really take it to the next level. And then just in terms of the customer base, I think the point of the slide is just the industries that we currently in. Pretty much any SYSPRO site that's in manufacturing and or distribution intensive businesses, we have a great fit for you. You can see some of the stronger ones is food. We're very strong in food in terms of number of users, automotive as well. But into apparel, brushwear, furniture, stationery, all sorts of different industries, right? So I'm going to hop into the software now and sort of talk through the software itself. And maybe at this point, any questions from the team? Okay, so I'm going to jump into the software. I'll start by giving you a little overview of kind of just the different components of the software, and then we'll talk through functionality. So on the PC-based side, so the software obviously has 3 components. The installation that exists on the server. You would normally put SYSPRO on an application server, SQL on your data server, and then you would normally put a DATASCOPE server up. Application server, just the same as like your SYSPRO application server. You would install a DATASCOPE onto the server, so there's a server component there. The databases exist in the same SQL database, so on the same server. So you will end up with a SYSPRO company B, and you'll end up with a DATASCOPE company B that associates with that SYSPRO company. And then the second component is the PC-based application, which is what I've got here in front of my screen. And on my screen, and the third one is the scanner-based application, which I'll open here. This is just it's a web-based front end, and these are all the scanner screens. And I'll sort of come back to that in a minute or two. Let's start with the PC-based application. Menu structure running down the side here, much like SYSPRO, where we we've got all our functionality and so on. I'll come back to the detail of the functionality. I've got a little My menu down the bottom where I can take any transaction that I regularly do here, and I can say add it to my My menu, and it will stick it down into the list down at the bottom, and that's user specific for people who want to find their regularly used programs. If you're looking for a program that you don't often use, you might want to go something like that, and we'll, if it's got the word pick in it, it will, just filter out all the menu structures and show you anything with the word pick. Or let's say track ID is another one. I'll talk about the track ID in a minute or two. These are all the programs that refer to track ID. Okay, so that's your menu structure running down the side there, your regularly used programs here. And then this is your workspace in front of you. And if you look at a typical screen, that's what kind of a lot of the screens kind of look like, right? So it's multi-paned. I can run multiple screens at the same time. So like this is your pick slip review screen. It's all your picking slips that are out there currently, where they are, who's got them, etc. And then this screen is specifically a load planning screen. It's for businesses that are in distribution. They run their own fleet of trucks, and they want to sort of manage orders through the warehouse and group them into routes, and then associate a truck to the route, and then obviously manage the picking processes and packing and invoicing processes to have a lot of orders ready to reload the truck and optimize the truck, right? So it's a very specific screen, but the point around it is you'll see that we've got grids of data in these screens. So yeah, if you look at that grid of data here, all our grids, you can sort them. You can do things like that, sort them by customer. You can drag up so that you kind of look at the data in a summarized format. You might want to look at all the picking slips on this particular route, but you want to see it by their status, and you can see these are all the invoiced ones I've got ready there waiting to go, whereas these ones have been picked, but we haven't packed them yet. These ones are in the shipping department, but we haven't finished the invoice yet. You can kind of slice and dice the data as you want, right? And if you really want to, you can stick it out into Excel. So this is consistent with all of our screens, right? We use color a lot. So color is visual. It's easy to work with, and nice in terms of interacting with the user. Just to further that, this is a typical picking screen that's out there on all your picking slips that are out in a particular warehouse. In my case, I've run it on all warehouses. I'm only looking at the outbound sales orders. I'm not looking at jobs or replenishment picking at this point. I'm just looking at this distribution center picks. And here again, big block of data. You can remove fields, add fields, much like SYSPRO can. So if you don't want to see certain fields on here, you can just, let's take something like this. Headers, no, I would want that. Printed time, printed date, and printed time. I want to take the time off. If you did that, it would just drop it off out of the grid, right? You can move these fields around, so you can go and put the field over there if you want it. And then again, you can sort it and so on. So let's say I want to see all pick slips out there that are currently out there by their status. So are they in picking? Are they in packing? Are they in the shipping department? Are they even loaded onto a truck yet? So they're underloaded. I've got one picking slip sitting underloaded. You can drill into any of these picking slips, and you can see the whole process of it. So when was this picking slip actually created, released to the warehouse, and by who? Assigned and started and picked by who? So a guy called Pick went and did this one. Check did the packing and dispatched the order, and admin invoiced it and loaded it on the truck, right? So a lot of detail here. You can drill in and look at the reservations of that particular picking slip. So what was on the picking slip? Okay, this one's actually completed, so it's dropped out of here. It's been invoiced. So yeah, you can see a lot of detail in here. Take this one as an example. You can see it was released by picked by somebody and named Pick. They then moved it into a staging bin, which is kind of where a pack station, in other words. You can see the pack station and then all the way through to invoice and complete, right? So a lot in terms of grids, and this is consistent throughout the software. Okay, so and then let's look at the scanner screen. So I'm admin here, so I can see all the scanner screens, right? Typically, your user will only have access to the transactions that they do on a daily basis, in which case they will only have 3, 4, 5 apps sitting on the scanner. This little emulator here, it's basically just a web page, and it loads. You can run it off the PC as well, but typically this resides on a normal handheld scanner. And the guy goes and does his transactions every day, right? So let's take a typical transaction as an example. I want to do a sales order pick to picking slip. If I go and look at my picking slips there, I've got 3 picking slips that are completed. They're green. I've done them. Somebody else has got another part of that order to pick, but I've done mine. But I've got a couple of other picking slips here that I haven't done yet. They're red. I can click on a picking slip. So I'll typically be doing this on a gun. That's what I'm going to be picking on this picking slip. If I go next, this is what the software would look like. So it would tell me, go to this bin location, 01B03A, and in there you will find a track ID, a pallet ID, in other words, called 1118, numbered 1118. I'd get there, I'd scan it to confirm I'm at that pallet. Okay, it says it doesn't exist because I didn't type it incorrect. And then it will load it, and then we've got all sorts of options. Do you scan the SKU at that point? Don't you? If it's a pick face bin, we don't necessarily need to scan the SKU because it's dedicated to a specific stock code and so on. And you'd kind of pick, and the screen would kind of take you through the warehouse logically, and you'd pick the order. And once you've picked the order, you'd come to the confirm tab at the end. And if it's all green, it means everything's picked. It's all good to go. You can confirm. That will confirm the pick, and depending on your settings, will either confirm, invoice the whole lot, or it will confirm and say this order now needs to move to a packing station where it's going to get packed out. At the end of packing, again, you could dispatch note it or invoice it. Or if you're using the shipping module, it would then move into the shipping module where you would have a bill of lading. You would link it to trucks, and you would kind of put multiple orders together on the same shipment, and you do all those documents, and then you would dispatch or invoice it from there, right? So yeah, so this is kind of what the look and feel is. And then in terms of customizations, down the bottom here, these little red tiles mean I've created my own custom screens. So what I've done is I've taken the normal purchase order receiving screen, this one here, and I've said copy it away and add some of my own logic in it. And then it renames it and turns it red. And then in this one, I've actually built some additional logic in there. So a typical one we've done quite a bit recently is on purchase receiving. Whenever we process a receipt of a purchase order, as we start it, we say this is the purchase order number that I'm about to receive. What a lot of guys have asked for is they want to do a trailer inspection at that point in time. And so we customize that. We ask the guy a whole lot of questions, check the trailer, enter the seal number. If it's cold storage, what was the temperature of the trailer at the time that we opened it, and a whole lot of other things. So that's a typical situation where you would kind of add some custom logic, write some additional information to a table or something like that, right? Yeah. So that kind of looks at the scanner side. Now, I've talked around track IDs a little bit, right? And I just want to explain the concept of a track ID, and it's fundamental to any full stack WMS. Any warehousing system or WMS that doesn't have true license plating or track IDs or something of that nature, fundamentally they're not a WMS, right? And the whole idea behind this is that whenever you receive a product, whether that's coming in on a purchase order, a landed cost tracking, LCT shipment, a job, or any other receipt of unplanned receipt, for instance, what you're essentially doing is during that receiving process, you're identifying the products that are being received and how they're packed out. For most warehouses, it's at a pallet level. So as I receipt, I define the fact that I'm receiving this, and I define what products are sitting on what particular pallet. And during that receipt, the software wakes up and prints us a barcoded label that goes onto each pallet. And that has a unique ID on it. In DATASCOPE side, we term that a track ID. It's an ID that tracks that entity. Many other WMSs call it an LPN or a license plate, but it's exactly the same thing. And basically what it does, what it means then is that unique ID is what is used to move things around. So I can process a receipt. I can receive a pallet that's got 6 different SKUs on it, as an example, maybe different lot numbers also. I give it a unique ID. And then when a guy comes with a forklift to put it away, when he scans that one scan unique ID, the software immediately knows I'm dealing with a pallet that's got 5 stock codes on it, these lot numbers, these quantities, and directs him to go put it away. When he puts it away and scans it into a bin, we move all the necessary transactions in the background. So essentially that screen's very easy to work with. 2 scans, scan the pallet, scan the destination bin. And then that's consistent throughout the software. So if I'm picking from that pallet, if I'm cycle counting, if I'm stock counting, I'm always referencing that unique ID. And then that unique ID, typically it would be a pallet, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a roll of fabric, as an example. It could be a coil of wire. It could be even down to a case, every individual case. Some companies want to put a unique ID on it, and then you're controlling the inventory in a much more effective manner, right? So if you go and have a look at kind of what the software does in the background here, we keep a detailed history of every ID and kind of what happened with that ID, right? So I'm just going to try and find something that's got some reasonable data on it. Okay, there's one there. It's got 5 transactions on this one. So here you can see on this, for this particular time frame, the transactions that happened on this particular track ID, right? And in this case, we picked 3 units onto that order, 3 units on that order, 3 units on that order, 2 units on that order, and then and then we actually boxed out. We actually packed these units, these 25 units into a case that we ship to a customer, right? So, but everything is on here from the time that you receive it, any cycle count, any stock count, transaction, any movement, any bin movement, any picking transaction. We keep the history against the track ID itself, right? Okay, so let's talk through some of the sort of modules and functions. Obviously, along the top here, we have a ribbon bar, and the ribbon bar has like a whole notification system in there. So yeah, anyone running the software, both scanners and PCs, it's basically like a little messaging system that you can message each other. You can create templates. So let's say I create a template called the receiving team in warehouse A, and I'm in the releasing department, and I'm releasing orders, and I can see I've got an order, I need to release it, but it's short of a material. But I can see that inventory is there. It's just in the receiving location, and it just needs to be put away. It's in receiving, it's on hold. I can't pick it until they've cleared it and put it away. I would go in there quickly, pull up the receiving template, and send a message out to the whole receiving team to say, guys, I urgently need this pallet for order that needs to go out. And then on the scanners and on the PCs, the little message box will pop up, and one of the team will accept it and say, all right, I'll action it, and then they'll go and move that pallet in. So that's a typical example. It could be used for any messaging, but that's a typical example. Then we've got all of our sort of setup options here. So that's settings specifically for the company and how different programs need to work and respond to the user, and both at a system-wide level as well as a warehouse level. So we've got a lot of settings that apply to a warehouse, right? These are all settings that apply to a warehouse. I wanted to ask for the stock code, don't ask for the stock code, auto load the lot, or ask the guy to scan the lot number. and all sorts of things, right? So those are all sort of setting related. And then let's go back there. All your printer setup. So if I do a receipt in this warehouse, a purchase receipt in this warehouse, where do I want to print the labels to? Business object settings, so that's integrating with our business objects, setting up users, licensing them, all the rest of it, right? Here we have a bunch of SYSPRO queries, like inventory query. It opens it embedded in the software. And we've got a list of maintenance screens, like maintain a purchase order, maintain a sales order. Now, normally speaking, guys that work in DATASCOPE don't normally open those programs because they actually don't need to work in SYSPRO. But if you did, you can do it from there. And then you've got a custom menu, you can go and add any other SYSPRO program that you actually would like to kind of have access to from within DATASCOPE, right? So let's just hide that. In terms of the menus and the functionality, so let's start at the top and I'll give you a bit of an overview. So setting up your warehouse, so creating all your bin labels, printing all your bin labels, linking bins to zones and areas. Zones are for put away, so I can put product into zones. I can say this product lives in an allergen zone. It's only allowed to go to a certain area of the warehouse. These products must go into a fridge. So I create a zone called fridge. I link my bins to it. And I can, on receiving and put away, I can tell the user, take that to the fridge, take that to the flammable area, or whatever the case is, right? So you set all of that up here. Creating your bin locations, it's all done within the software. We control it. We then push the bin number back to SYSPRO. So we control the setup of the bin, the number of track IDs or pallets that are allowed in that bin. So this bin's allowed up to 3 track IDs. The volume of the bin. Is it a pick face bin or a bulk bin? Bulk bin basically fundamentally means it's random location. You can put any pallet of product in there, whereas a pick face location is linked to a stock code or stock codes, and only that stock code or stock codes is allowed to ever go into that bin because it's a dedicated pick face location. And there's a couple of other options here. I can import my bins basically by just copying them out of an Excel spreadsheet and dropping them into this grid, and then I go and create my bins. Some of the other features inside here are barcode cross-reference. You can put all your supplier barcodes in, cross-reference it back to your stock code, and even define the pack size, right? So you can say, if I scan this barcode, it is actually my product A100 in SYSPRO, and it's a pack of 24, right? So that's where you set up that. We've got a full on hold module where you can put inventory at a track ID level. I can put product on hold, take it off hold for a whole range of reasons. Is it a quality issue? Is it an inventory issue? Is it a customer service issue? So I might, for instance, on a customer service, I might put a number of pallets on hold because we know we've got an important customer that's going to be placing a big order at the end of the month. We don't want to sell that inventory to anyone else. So we go in there and we put it on hold and we give it a reason code as part of a customer service reason. We say hold for customer XYZ, and then that will hold it up for us, right? Labeling of in the software is all embedded. We don't use any external labeling. It's all fundamentally based on crystal reports. Out of the gate, the software has standard templates, and then you can change those templates, right? So either your partner, like HIT, can come and adjust the templates for you, or if you've got crystal skills internally, you can actually edit those yourself, copy them away, edit them, and make your labels look like you want to, put your logos on them, etc., etc. Cycle counting, full cycle count module with the ability to manage approvals at different levels. So I'll just try and find some cycle counts I've got here in the background. So there's some cycle counts that need to be approved. Red means that there's some sort of variance on them. This is test data. So typically in your environment, that'd be green like this one. And then you can accept or reject the count, etc. You can drill into the count and see who counted it and the various details around that. So there's the details associated with the count, and manage that all the way through, including a cycle count scheduler where you can go and schedule all your counts by bin, by stock code, by lot number, and actually put them into a schedule. And then your cycle count team, when they come onto the scanner, they will see under cycle count, the scheduled cycle counts, they'll see a list of all the counts that are waiting for them to actually go and count, right? So that's kind of managed from a front end perspective. And then on stock take, full wall-to-wall inventory or stock take. Very nice feature. This, when I'm doing a stock count, I can do it by warehouse, of course, like you can in SYSPRO, but it's all live. So I start the stock take in SYSPRO, I open it in DATASCOPE, I start the guys counting, and within minutes I can kind of monitor how the count is going, and I can already send out people for second count. So a lot of detail here again in the grid, same story with the grid, but one of the fields here is number of times counted. So all of these bins down here haven't been counted yet. These ones have been counted once. This one's been counted twice at the top. And if I drill in, I can see the date and time it was counted, what was counted, who counted it, etc. Right? So I can see the detail of that. As the guys go through the warehouse counting, these bar graphs will show you where you are. So I'm 3% into my bins, and I'm 3% into my actual track IDs that I've counted so far of the warehouse. But the idea is that goes from red to orange, and then from orange it goes into green when it's within sort of 5% of the full count. So you can kind of see how you're doing on your count as you go, right? And obviously I can send out second count teams as I go and things like that. So very nicely detailed. Obviously all your inbound, so purchase order receipts and LCT receipts, and managing them and overseeing them and kind of all the rest of it. Obviously on the scanner screens, you've got your receiving processes here. So yeah, this is a pre-receipt. So this is typically for like LCTs, for instance. Want to do a landed cost tracking receipt, ask you to print IDs to put onto the pallets, and then obviously scan the product onto pallets as you unpack the container. GRTs and SETs and GRTs, that's all interbranch or interbranch transfers. Replenishment, we've got a full replenishment system, both a simple one. The simple one lets you set up pick faces, min, max, and reorder level. And then the software automatically manages that. And as soon as that bin gets down to the reorder level, we send a message straight out to the scanner and say, you need to bring some more of this product. That's in simple. Directed goes a lot further. We can actually do that, but we actually take those requirements and we turn them into picking tickets. We give picking tickets to the guys to go and optimize where they pick the product from. We reserve the inventory just like we reserve the inventory for sales orders or jobs. And we can use some logic there as to what inventory we want to pick when we replenish down into the pick face. You must always take the oldest lot, etc., etc. So that's all in there. Work in progress, full work in progress, picking for jobs, job returns, job receipts off the other side with all the labeling components to it, and then various picking around jobs, picking and packing material to go to the job in various forms. That all forms part of work in progress. Before I carry on, any specific questions so far? Okay, cool. I'll just keep going then. All right. Order release. This is where we release our orders to the warehouse. We can waive them. We can group them. We can batch them. We can find all sales orders for a customer, including the back orders and new orders. We can filter it to certain time frames. We can release those orders as a group. So we can actually pick them as one big entity, but we're picking multiple orders within the entity. Or we can release them as linked, but not grouped. In other words, the individual picking slips, but when they get to the packing station, we'll pack them together and ship them together. Within the picking strategies, just out of interest, we've got 13 picking strategies. We can pick to box, we can pick to carton, we can pick to tote, we can wave pick, we can sequence pick. What sequence pick does is if you're in a smaller warehouse, or it doesn't have to be small, it can be a big warehouse, but you're picking smaller items, fine picking. So a lot of like you're picking into boxes and you're shipping them out to a customer. We can do sequence picking, which means a picker can take 5 orders, go to a cart that's predefined for 5 orders or 10 orders, and he can put his cartons onto the cart, and we'll take him through the whole pick phase in a logical sequence and tell him pick 2 for that order, pick 1 of these for that order, pick 2 of those for that order, and we'll take him through the warehouse once. And when he comes out the other side, he's picked all 5 or 10 or whatever orders that he's got on his name in one shot, right? So many different picking strategies. MSN picking basically says when I release the orders for a customer, I might release 5 orders for the customer. They're all going to the same customer, so I've grouped them, and I want to just pick them as one entity. So although it's actually going to 5 different orders, when I'm picking the consolidated quantity of that onto a pallet or pallets, and when it goes out, the software is clever enough to know which orders to ship and release and all the rest of it. All the shipping and releasing and everything is all done automatically. There's no need to go back into SYSPRO to print an invoice or to ship something or to unship something. The software deals with all of that automatically without user intervention. Right, and then some of these modules down the bottom here, like load planning, which I talked about earlier, that's if I'm running my own fleet of trucks. These are more advanced modules. So if you look at Fast Track as a product, Fast Track comes with all of these modules at the top. It's the same software. It's just branded at the bottom, not as DATASCOPE Premium. It's branded as Fast Track. And you get all the cycle count, stock count, PO receiving, all the inventory controls, all the main functions to pick and pack and ship orders. But it's in a pre-configured, fairly standard environment, right? It's a great way to start with DATASCOPE. You can go and get accredited online. It's free. You can then implement the software on your own as long as you're accredited or one of your team are accredited, or you can implement the software with some accredited in your team, but with assistance from Andrew and his team to go and put Fast Track in. That gets you into the basics and maybe do it in 1 or 2 warehouses, lays the foundation, gets you comfortable with the software, runs that warehouse nicely, and then you can always upgrade to premium at any point that you want to. And so now I want to get more clever, right? I want to now start customizing screens, which is in premium. I want to maybe do some of these modules down the bottom, like the TMS, the full TMS. I want to rate shop orders. I want to do all this cool, funky stuff. I want to do some RFID. I want to do voice picking maybe. I want to implement the advanced quality control system. All of those modules there form part of the premium solution, but it's a very easy step up out of Fast Track and into premium when the time is right? So I'm not going to go through a lot of these modules in a lot of detail, but I'll just touch on a few. Task management is a newer module for us, and it's particularly good in very big warehouses where you don't want people to come in and do a function. So normally in a warehouse, you have pickers, you have replenishers, you have pack station operators, and they come in and that's where they work all day, every day. So they come in, they've got their range of apps on the scanner, and they just do their transactions day in and day out. In very big warehouses, you may very well want to take an individual and say, I want him to do sort of prioritize picking, but he can also do cycle counting and he can also do replenishments, right? And then what it basically does is every transaction that's happening, so any replenishment, any picking transaction, any put away transaction, is all been written into a control table, essentially, which is called task management control. And then he logs into a scanner application that actually fetches him work, right? So it's like a task driven. He comes in here and he says, fetch me my next task. And it goes and fetches him a task and says, you're going to do this now. Now you're going to do this. Now you're going to do this, right? And it uses his profile as to understand what to prioritize to him. And behind this, we have a plugin, which I talked about earlier, where you can actually put your own logic in there, right? So you can say, within my plugin, typically he does picking, but if I've got pick slips in the queue that are older than 4 hours, then I want to prioritize the pick to him, right? But if all the picking slips in the queue are recent, they were released within 4 hours, but I've got cycle counts that are 4 hours old, I want to give the cycle counts to him or to the user so that we kind of keep on top of cycle counts. And then you can sort of amend those, right? So if replenishment becomes a problem in the warehouse, you can go back into that script and you can say, no, I want to prioritize replenishments so that, I'm typically giving a lot more replenishments out to guys because I've got a problem in the warehouse currently that pick faces are draining and I need to get product down. So that's all within that software, right? So that's the task management module. KPI and reporting, we've got that's in Fast Track, so it's in both Fast Track and Premium, but we've got our own sort of reporting thing. DRS reporting, it's based on SSRS, so you can write your own SSRS reports and embed them in here. Put a couple of folders for receiving, dispatch, production, and within them you can create all their own custom reports that they run on a daily basis, etc. Right? And then of course you've got all the standard reports here, which come standard with the software. There's reports like SYSPRO is. There's reports under each of the different modules, and then there's kind of more standard reports here, including one called a balance report that just makes sure that the SYSPRO inventory and DATASCOPE inventory are always in sync. They never go out of sync. And if for whatever reason, if they do, it will highlight on the balance report, and you can go and investigate what happened that transaction actually went out of sync, and many of the other transactions. So I think time-wise, I just want to be careful that we've got enough time for questions here.
I think you're doing okay, Anton. We've still got another sort of 12 minutes on the schedule anyway.
Okay, cool. All right, so then perhaps let me talk through some of the more detailed things in the meantime. So a lot of people ask us about sort of reviewing orders and releasing them, right? So let's go and have a look at that. So we have, and I just want to precurse this, that any of these transactions can be automated, right? So if I don't want to do a job receipt from the DATASCOPE job receipt front end, because I've got some system I've developed out on the factory floor, and we do all the receiving in that third-party software, you can just make your third-party software call our business object and post the job receipt into our business object, right? So just bear that in mind. The ability to integrate is really great. So this is typically how we would view sales orders that we want to release out to the warehouse. So this is test data. So I'm just going to go and grab quite a bit of data here. And I'm going to go and find all my orders from the beginning of 2023. And I'm going to say, go and run me a listing of all the orders that are out there. So here's a whole bunch of sales orders. If I pull them up to the top, there's a couple of them. If I drill in, that order's got 3 items on it. This order here has got 9 items on it, right? If I pull that down, green means it's reserved. So I'm going to clear the reservation for now. Right, so nothing's reserved here, and then I'm going to run an auto reservation process on this, right? So if I run an auto reservation, what this is doing is it's using my own business logic to say, where should we reserve this inventory to optimize the distribution center, right? I don't want to just reserve it from anywhere. I want to try and get full pallets. I want to get the oldest lot. I can't give this lot to a customer because it's going to expire within 3 months, and they don't accept shipment of lots that are going to expire in 3 months. They need a 6-month window, etc., right? So this is all now reserved. And then what I could do is I could drag it up by customer. Okay, I've only got one customer's orders here. And I can drag it up by order. So there I can see the orders are underneath there. And then I can release these in different ways, right? So I can release this entire lot. I mean, I can see everything in here is all green, so it's all good to go. I can release all these picking tickets. But if I release this, I can release it as a grouped MSN. Okay. In other words, I'm creating one picking ticket, one master shipment number, and I'm going to pick everything as one entity. Or I can release it as an MSN by order. So I'm releasing the group, but I'm actually creating multiple picking slips with their own MSNs, which means they're going to they potentially could ship separately from each other. Okay. Yeah, and then there's a lot of other sort of features and functions here. But the idea here is I can look at all my orders. I can use those filters at the front there, these ones, to kind of prioritize orders. I can say I only want to now look at all the orders where the geographic area is a particular geographic area. Then I'll filter it down. Or maybe I say where the order priority is urgent orders only, right? And that's a custom form field. So you can make order priority what you want. This is a customer collect order. This is a 24-hour shipment. This is an overnight. This is a always ship on a Thursday. That kind of thing. And then any combination of these will go and fetch all the sales orders from SYSPRO, bring them to me, give them to me in a group, and then obviously I can review on that front end and release picking tickets out into the warehouse, right? So that's just a little bit about releasing. What else? Let's just look at the scanner screens for a minute. I'm jumping around a little bit, but a lot of the transactions you can do from the front end. For instance, if I want to go and set up a new pick face bin, this is all the pick face setup stuff here. But if I go to the scanner, I've got maintain pick faces here as well, right? So it's a little different because typically you create new pick faces, you print the labels, you set them all up on the PC-based front end, and then you can maintain them on the scanner. So I'm out on the floor, let's say the pick face bin location, the actual label's been damaged, and I would just want to enter that pick face bin, print a new label. I can do that from here, right? Or I want to de-link a stock code and say that stock code, I don't want it to live there anymore. I'm going to put a different stock code in there. You can unlink the one, link the other one straight from within the scanner, but you can do it from the PC as well, right? Yeah, and so there's a lot of those type of transactions. Obviously, stock taking, all your stock taking processes. Just out of interest on stock taking, when you're doing stock take, we have an option to do what we call a closed count. So when product comes in during receiving, we've got a number of clients that when they receive pallets of goods, and maybe that pallet has more than one SKU on it, they receive the pallet, they check it carefully, they label it, and then they shrink wrap that pallet, right? And they push that pallet up into bulk racking. And then when they do a stock count, they understand that if they get to a pallet that's still shrink wrapped, it's never been opened, they don't want to then pull that pallet down, unbreak break the shrink wrap and count it. There's no need to, because we know it's still sealed, right? So we have such a thing as a closed count. You can turn that on warehouses or turn it off, right? So there, I can basically say, if I'm doing a closed count, scan the bin, scan the pallet, okay, the track ID, and then it will load everything that's on that pallet, and we can just confirm that, look, the pallet's good to go. And then it actually does the count of all the items automatically, whereas your typical count would expect you to count every item. And then when you're counting every item, if you're in that kind of mode, we have what we call auto suggestion. So if you typically have more than one SKU on a pallet, when you count this, what will happen is the software will actually say, all right, auto suggestion is on. Based on auto suggestion, I'm going to tell you the first product that's there, please count it. Then it's going to load the next one and say, you count that, load the next one, count that, right? So we've got quite a few clients in the high branded cosmetics industry. They import very expensive cosmetics and distribute them. And in those businesses, typically you've got anything from 20 different SKUs up to 45 SKUs on a pallet. That works really well, because when I come to count a pallet, the software is actually saying, all right, you're going to count this pallet, you are going to break it down, but I know you've got Chanel number 5 on here, so count it. And then you've got some particular fragrance for Davidoff or something. Now count that one, count this one, right? So there's a lot of those kind of features throughout the software that let you do really funky stuff and make the screen work differently. And then if the screen still doesn't do what you really want it to do, you copy that screen away and you go and edit the logic in it, and you make it do whatever you specifically want it to do, right? Some of the other things here, obviously receiving a purchase order, doing an inventory adjustment, doing an expense issue. So that's used obviously quite a lot for if you've got consumable items that you bring into inventory and then you expense them out. Inventory backflush. So like SYSPRO's standard inventory backflush allows you to backflush single level, multi-level, prints a new label when you backflush another pallet of goods out of production. A convert stock code is we've got some customers that have product A100 and they've got product A101. They sell A100 to one company and they sell A101 to a different company, but actually it's exactly the same product, right? And then a time comes where they need to sell A101s to the customer, but they don't have any, but they've got A100s. So they want to convert. They'll basically take a pallet down, do the convert, adjust out the A100, adjust in the A101, relabels the pallet, and then they can sell it to the guy that they want to sell it to. Right? That's what that's designed for. Obviously, directed put away. So I go and scan a pallet, and then all sorts of logic around. On this pallet, I've got 15 speed mountain bikes. I've got 10 of them. If there were multiple SKUs on this pallet, you'd see them all there. But then all my logic as to must I put it away in a specific bin, specific zone, all that logic exists inside the screen here, right? Tell me where to take it to. Obviously, pick face replenishment. So this is all any replenishment sitting in the list that says you need to go and replenish. I don't have anything there currently. By the look of it, refresh it. Yeah, so I don't have test data. I don't have any replenishments in there. What are some of these other ones here? Job return. So I've picked for a job, I've issued to a job, and now I want to return from the job, and I can do that both from the PC-based and from the scanner-based solution. So why would you do differently? On the PC-based one, you can put it on a PC, integrate it to a scale, and then when I return, I actually weigh the product and that posts the return. So let's say we use big rolls of paper in production. When we open a new job, we issue 5 rolls to the job, but that's actually over issuing the job. We use 4 of the rolls, and then on the 5th roll, we use half of the roll and half goes back. So we've issued 5 rolls, and then that last roll comes back. We scan the job, we scan the product. It then says, yes, I know about the roll involved. You weigh it, it then immediately processes the receipt, relabels the product, and puts it back into inventory, right? Now, the scanner does the same thing. It just doesn't integrate to the scale. Yeah, so, and then truck loading. So loading of trucks, unloading of trucks. So I've picked the order, I've packed the order, I've gone to the shipping department. Now I'm loading the trucks, right? And for whatever reason, I decide, well, actually, I want to unload 2 of those pallets. Or maybe the truck goes out for delivery and delivers to customer A, B, and C, but can't get to customer D. And the truck comes back, we unload it and wait for tomorrow, and then we reload it back onto the truck, right? So a lot of those kind of functions, customer returns, straight GRT in and out, or out and in. So this is like running a shuttle load. I've got a factory and a distribution center, and they 2 miles apart. So out of the factory, I load a shuttle truck, which then runs across to the DC and unloads it on that side. So that, you know, obviously we can do all of that on the scanners. Cancel the dispatch note. And then I think one thing that I wanted to spend 1 minute on quickly is just a lot of systems have built the transactions to work correctly, but they haven't built a lot around when something goes wrong, and we have. So we can unship orders, we can unpack a pick slip, we can remove something off a pick slip, all those type of things. The software is very robust in terms of how to deal with exceptions when something does go wrong. Customer cancels an item or cancels an order, things like that, right? I do see we are on the hour, so I want to be respectful of people's time.
We are. Thanks, Anton. I think that was really useful. Hopefully, our attendees have taken something away from this. I've seen a message from Alistair who said he has no questions on the product, which is good. That obviously means you've done your job well,
Okay.
and demonstrated the product really well. If anybody does have any questions, please feel free to either put them in the chat or the Q&A, or take yourselves off of mute and just ask away. In the meantime, there's one question sort of in my mind, Anton, and it's something that you and I have touched on in the past in some conversations. So sometimes we see some of our customers that are looking for advanced warehouse management systems, and they go out to market to find another product. How would you position yourselves against some of those other products? Obviously, the key thing is that DATASCOPE is already integrated with SYSPRO, works inherently in tandem with SYSPRO, so there's no change to anything you need to do there. But some customers look to other third-party products that aren't integrated with SYSPRO, and then look to try and integrate them. How would you sort of position the two?
Yeah, so I think firstly, the integration between an ERP and a WMS is a very complex thing to do if you're going to do it properly, right? So many best-of-breed WMSs out there will downplay the integration, right? So they'll come in, they'll say, look at all this great functionality we have in our software. And when you say, yes, but I want to make your software work with SYSPRO, they'll say, that's easy. We've got APIs. You just make the two systems talk together. And what they will very carefully do is they'll abscond themselves from doing it, right? They'll say, no, you go to your SYSPRO partner and you do the integration. We'll just give you all the APIs to do the integration, right? Because they understand that it's a minefield, right? And basically what then happens is they will never put a cost to that. They'll put a cost to their software and their implementation, but the integration portion, they'll push it onto an integrator, a third-party integrator. And then what tends to happen is when you go into the project, that integration gets more and more complicated. You start spending more and more budget, but the customer's already, he's bought in, right? He can't get out. So he's already bought the software. He's halfway down the road. And now he starts to realize that the integration is more complex than what he realized, and he spends a lot more money. And that happens over and over and over again. And then two things happen from there. Either the customer says, well, then scale down the integration, just do the basics, which means that in the long term, you don't get the best solution, because SYSPRO and that warehousing system are fundamentally two systems with a bit of integration, and you end up with two versions of the truth. So that there's that aspect. Or the customer says, I'll just blow through the budget. We need to do this and integrate it, in which case the actual costs of that project become exorbitant. Our standing on that is obviously to point out that integration is more of an issue than people try to make out. And the benefit for us is that integration, and at a very detailed level, is already done. It's there, it's proven, it's tested. There's many sites involved. And then I'd take it a step further, and that is obviously a lot of the integration to DATASCOPE. We use the same terminology as SYSPRO. We understand the SYSPRO business objects, so we can leverage SYSPRO's functionality a lot more than a third party would measure it. So for the deals that we've been up against, the best of breeds, overall, typically we come in 40% cheaper than them on a full stack WMS, just because the product is already configured, already integrated to SYSPRO. So that's how I would position that one.
Yeah, and a mature product as well, with 23 years of history behind it, working with SYSPRO. So I think that says a lot. Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone else? Silence.
Cool.
I will take that as an indication that you have done a marvelous job. Thank you, Anton, and thank you to our attendees as well. Hopefully that you've learned something about some advanced warehouse management techniques and features, and has given you some food for thought within your businesses. If anybody wants to find out any more or wants to look at DATASCOPE in any more detail, please feel free to reach out to myself or a member of the technology team. We'd be very pleased to talk to you. We can arrange a session specifically for you with Anton or a member of his team to go through many more detail that might be specific to your industry or your business itself. We are 6 minutes over our allotted time. Apologies for that, but I think it was good to get through as much of DATASCOPE as we could. As I say, thank you to everybody for attending, and we'll wrap it up there. Have a good rest of your day.
Yep. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.